Hey everybody, this is David. Welcome to MSOM 601, Module 2, Analyzing Arguments this week. I'm coming to you today from the Washington State Ferry system. The Washington State Ferries are an integral part of transportation here in the state of Washington. I'm on my way from the Seattle area today over to the San Juan Islands. We're going to be over in the San Juan Islands for a couple of weeks, and appreciate you hanging with me. Sorry about the shake and the vibration on this, and hopefully you understand. I'm on a ferry, right? So let's talk about Module 2 coming up this week, Analyzing Arguments. You're going to be reading from 2 chapters in your textbook this week. Chapter 4, that talks about clarifying ideas and concepts. And then Chapter 5 talks about analyzing arguments and diagramming decisions. Now you think about that from an overall critical thinking perspective, clarifying ideas and concepts, very, very important. How many times has this happened to you? You've had a conversation with someone and you're talking to them and they don't understand what you're talking about, and then you get into an argument, and then at the end of the argument you realize that the two of you really didn't understand what the concept was when you got started. You were coming at it from 2 totally different definitions. And so that's part of the challenge that you have in critical thinking, is to make sure that your ideas and your concepts are clear, not only for you, but for your audience, and if that's an audience of one or an audience of many. So clarifying ideas and concepts, very, very important. And then analyzing arguments and diagramming decisions, you're going to walk through a process where you can use some certain diagrams to visually see how arguments are put together. And when I use the word arguments, I'm talking about really a rational discussion. I'm not talking about arguments in the sense of, the angry argument component of it, okay? And so a couple of really great chapters this week. You're going to have a discussion board that talks this week about context and purpose, and how do they play into your interpretation. And so understand that the things that are going on around you impact how you present or how you think about something, but also understand your audience and understand the things that they are going through, the context that they have, the purpose that they have for being in the discussion, if you will, or in the audience. Play a role in their interpretation of that as well. And so this is really one of the key elements of critical thinking, is to have a firm understanding of what context and purpose play, not only for the presenter, if you will, but all people involved in the discussion. So that's the discussion board this week. The application this week talks about vagueness and ambiguity. Vagueness and ambiguity. This is a key part. I mean, I can't stress this enough. Clarity and connection are both very, very important. If you want to make sure that you connect with an individual, you need to be very, very clear. And you may see on some of your papers coming up where I always talk about defining your terms before you apply them. So you'll come up with an idea, a concept, a phrase that may be very clear in your mind what that means. Well, you need to make sure in your papers and even in your general conversation that you define that for your audience, because they may have a different definition. And if your definition is different than their definition and nobody says anything about it, then you're not going to connect. You're not going to have context. You're not going to have clarity. And you're certainly not going to have a connection between your thoughts and their thoughts. So define the terms before you apply them. And again, think about that from your paper perspective as well. Let's see. That's the application this week. A couple of miscellaneous things. Make sure that you look at the paper formats. In the enrichment references section of Blackboard, I've placed some APA helps. I've placed some sample APA papers. And then make sure, hear me on this, make sure that you look at the gradebook comments that I make, because what I've done is I've attached a file that will have my comments on your papers in great detail, okay? So make sure that you take a look at those and then correct them for the next paper coming forward. All right? And then the final thing I want to make sure I stress is graduate work is different than undergraduate work. Just don't use the textbook here. Just don't do Google searches. As a matter of fact, try to avoid doing Google searches for sites. Whew, that's cold. That's 55 degrees here today in July 1st, as I'm shooting this in July. Make sure that you go to the CSU online library, okay? There is a tutorial in the enrichment references section. Make sure that you go there and pull out peer-reviewed articles that you will use to support your writing. That's really, really important in graduate level studies. All right? Hope you have a great week. If you need me, contact me. I'm an email away. All right? Take care. Talk to you soon.